Filipino Fly, and today we are going to have a conversation. Oh man, this is going to be. I don't think this is going to be a very controversial topic, but I do feel like it should be a conversation that it should be had. So I just finished watching episode 4 of Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I'm not going to go through the episode bits by bits, but the conversation is, about LGBT and cartoons and all that stuff. Now, personally, this is a new time, and I do think that, you should have that in there. Now, the world is more openly acceptable to LGBT things. Hell, they got a Pride Month. You got Pride parades and everything and all that other stuff. Now, the thing is, how do you put this type of media to the kids? Because you don't want to expose everything. Because sometimes, yes, even though a lot of people are gay, there's a lot of things in that lifestyle that, it could be looked at as very sexual. And, not just, even though not everybody is, flamboyant. Some people are not super flamboyant. Some people are just, they gay, but they act like regular human beings. It's just that they like the same sex or whatever you want to claim. You're just watching this. If you haven't seen episode 4 of Louder and Prouder with Proud Family, come back to that and watch, and then come to this review / conversation. This episode is really, I was kind of, even though I'm straight, I was kind of looking forward to this episode because I want to see how Proud Family handles this situation, because I've seen other cartoons do it, with the exception of Steven Universe, and I think they was able to go through it because a lot of their characters are non-binary anyway, so you could kind of like get away with it. Yes, the characters were kind of like female forms, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't watch Steven Universe. So correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of those characters are really kind of non-binary. They have female, bodies and all that stuff, but it's really non-binary. Like, just correct me if I'm wrong, because I never watched Steven Universe. You've seen things like Arthur do it, like Mr. Ratburn getting married, and my only problem is that you didn't know that he was marrying a guy until the end of the episode, so you really can't really explain this. You really didn't do a good job explaining this to kids. Now, my thing about, like I said, explaining LGBT things specifically to kids is, how do you go explaining it while making, one side cool with it and the other side cool with it? The LGBT side, they'd be like, okay, this was a good episode, I feel like you did everything correctly. And the straight side would be like, okay, I see you at least educating them without really pushing an agenda or thinking that you're pushing an agenda. To me, that's like the perfect cartoon is trying to find that middle ground is, yes, these things happen, these people are here, and no, we're not trying to push an agenda. We're just trying to educate your kids that these people are here and you should treat them with the respect that you should. That's what I feel like a lot of these cartoons, if you're going to do these type of episodes, that's what the middle ground has got to be. Yes, but there are people that still going to feel like, oh, they didn't do enough, or you shouldn't be teaching this to kids like they be kids. But if you're going to do it, you got to understand, I feel like you got to jump in that. You can't just tiptoe in that water. You got to dive in head first. Most literally. So with this episode of episode 4 called Father Figures, and if y'all know Maya, who's played by Keke Palmer, she has 2 daddies. One is played by Billy Porter, and I forgot who the white guys played in. They went to this concert. It's funny, it's called Pink Eye, and the white dad was doing the bodyguards, and then you see I think his name is Randy. I think his name is Randy because the guy's name is Bob. Yeah, Randy, Billy Porter's character. He comes in and it's just like KG introduces, hey, this is my dad, and Dejanay is just like, I thought the white guy was your daddy, and then she tried to put 2 and 2 together. She go, oh. And then, so it starts with there, and it ends with basically, Oscar, that whole, because the episode is really about Oscar trying to get a loan so he can open his amusement park. He was going to get a loan from Billy Porter's character, who is a banker, and he was like, hey, us brothers got to look out for each other, right? And all that other stuff. He was about to prove the loan until Bob comes in, his husband, and like Oscar, he tried to keep his cool, but he was freaked out because in this show, they actually showed in the cartoon version, they actually showed two dudes kissing. I know there was other cartoons that did that, but in this cartoon, they actually showed two dudes kissing and all that other stuff. So, and Oscar, I don't want to say he freaked out, but it just, he's frozen. That's the perfect way, because if you actually watch the show, he's actually frozen by it. So he ended up not getting a loan because of his prejudice or what he sees. I've said it before, I do not have a problem with putting LGBT stuff into cartoons. I feel like kids are going to find out anyway. You might as well teach them. I just feel like you got to be done, like I said, it has to be done in a way where I feel like both sides are cool. Now, what do I think about this episode? The episode is actually pretty funny. This is actually a pretty funny episode, and in my opinion, this is their best episode so far. There's only 4 episodes in. This is their best episode so far. But I do have some nitpicks with it. 1, Dejanay got off. 2, she basically got away with murder because this whole thing started with Dejanay. And it's like why Maya, because in the show, Maya and her brother are getting made fun of because they have 2 daddies, and everybody's looking at them weird, and it's like, hey, you got 2 daddies. One of them actually comes up, he's like, hey, so who is Double Daddy's boy and all that stuff? KZ was like, why don't we step outside and find out? He's like, and like he's getting made fun of, and nobody wants to sit with him because they got 2 daddies and all that other stuff. Now that part I feel like they did well, because sometimes, and even though you don't need the LGBT thing to prove this point, sometimes what your parents do, it does affect the kids. So the fact that them having 2 daddies, it affected them in school, where everybody just looked at them weird and start treating them like a bunch of freaks and all that other stuff. And Penny, she trying to be like, hey, that's wrong. Y'all don't be treating these people just because they got 2 daddies. Y'all gonna be treating them different. That's wrong. I feel like they did good on that part, because you should not be in this world. You should not be treated because of not because they should be treated by their character and what they bring out, not because their parents are to both daddies or something like that. And even with like race-wise, you should be judged by the content of your character, not the content of your skin, as Martin Luther King said, and I said that loosely. First of all, I think they should have really got at Dejanay. Dejanay got off scot-free. Like, everybody's like, oh, that's just Dejanay, that's just what she does or some shit like that. And like in the joint, she was like, new kids and 2 daddies and all that other stuff. So she's like being the toxic person, and yet she doesn't get talked to, nor she doesn't get, she does not get talked to at all. So I feel like they should have got at Dejanay, because especially since she's the one that started it, they should have got it. So in this other part where I feel like they could have stepped on more, it was just like, why are people treating them like that? Because it's weird. La Cienega says it's weird. He was like, says who? Says my daddy. And then Zoe was like, my daddy. Dejanay says mine's too. So basically, that's good, because you was like, some of this stuff is learned behavior. They see that they learn behavior. So that's good. To me, where they messed up at is that when they get to Oscar, and they're already arguing about it, that they have 2 daddies, that new people get 2 daddies, and Oscar doesn't want to go hang out with them because they got 2 daddies. This is the perfect time, because a lot of people will say because he's homophobic, and he's homophobic, his misogyny and all that stuff. They never get into why he doesn't like seeing 2 daddies. Now, it could be biblical reasons, which if not everybody follows the Bible to the T, unless you are like a devout Christian. Not everybody follows the Bible to the T. So, or it's just not your thing. Because some people, it's just like they may tolerate it, they may accept it. It's just not their thing. Like, even though it's like they're not gonna bash you about it, I don't want to see two dudes kissing. That's how most people are going to be. Some people tolerate it, some people don't want to see it at all. It made him look homophobic, and he never really got the chance to explain himself because all he says is, because I'm the father and I said so. I feel like this is the problem I have, is because it makes it look one-sided. Oscar's probably not homophobic, but you never get into the reasons. Alright, now you're just assuming that he's just homophobic or he's just toxic. He may have a reason. I'm not saying it's good, but he may have a reason. I feel like he should have got the chance to explain himself. And that's the problem I have with some of these shows that does this. It's never a real conversation. Because at the end of the show, the lesson is love is love. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate that saying love is love because it could be a very slippery slope. Raymond, why do you say it could be a very slippery slope? Because people who perform bestiality or people who perform pedophilia could use that same term, love is love. And I know what you're thinking. It doesn't really mean by that. I said it's love is love. That's what it says. Love is love. So anybody could use that. Abusers could beat up their wife and say love is love. Like people that are attracted to men, grown adults that are attracted to children could use love is love. Incest, love is love. People that bestiality, love is love. Anybody can use that. If you ask me if there's a better way you can say that, I don't have one. But I never got into the whole love is love thing. I just don't like the slogan. I know the meaning, but I don't like the slogan. But other than that, there was never a really good conversation because at the end, it's just like the white man, he's like, I'm making gumbo. And everybody was like, you know what? You're not so bad. There's not a conversation there. And the thing is, how would you have the conversation? And I think you gotta explain both sides. Now, like, it could have ended up with just like, hey, I misjudged you as a character because it was just like Penny defended Maya and KG, but they never defended him because he got dad. Penny assumed the Grove sisters are bullying them because they got two daddies, and the Grove sisters like, nah, they got two daddies with jobs. It's like, so Grove sisters is basically robbing them. So it's never the fact that they had two daddies, it's that the two daddies had money. It's like, oh, that's a come up. I don't care. It's like, hey, why is that a problem? Because Maya's family could have been a regular traditional family. Like, it could have been a mother and a father, both making money. The Grove sisters would have still robbed them anyway. So that never really got to the problem. The only thing is, Penny assumed that because they had to run, you're making fun of him. She's assuming that the Grove sisters making fun of him, but she makes the wrong assumptions. And I'm like, she's supposed to be, the moral reason, but yet she's going too far too. And it's just like, it's not explaining it. And to me, like the ending where it's just like, hey, I'm making gumbo, and I was like, ooh, I like gumbo, and all that stuff. It's the equivalent of Kendall Jenner in that one commercial where she gives the cops a Pepsi and everybody's cheering and dancing, which they do at the end. They do the hustle at the end, and it's just like, I don't know if nothing got solved. Cause nothing got solved because the guy that was making fun of him is there eating a gumbo, and he was just like, I want to apologize for what? And he goes, oh, I'll tell you after my second help with the gumbo. That doesn't solve nothing. You didn't solve anything. Like, he's just going away. It's just like, I'm pretty sure the father knows, but this could have been a good lesson to teach. Do not be judging people just because they live different. They're obviously in a non-traditional, because I'm not going to say normal. I'm going to say traditional and non-traditional. Obviously, Maya KG lives in a non-traditional house. Now, just because I say non-traditional doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not traditional. The traditional was a man, a woman, and kids. The non-traditional is everything. It's like two guys. I'm not being against it, but it is a non-traditional house. My thing is, they did a good job, and the episode is really good. But I also feel like they could have gone more. They could have dug deeper. And if you're like, well, it's just a cartoon. Do they really got to go deep? Look back in one of the Proud Family episodes where Penny Proud was going back in time, and they perfectly explained racism and how it was back in the day where the blacks had to sit different from the whites and all that and stuff. They explained that perfectly. That's a great, that's a flawless episode in my opinion. It's just like, hey, you know, that's what happened back in the day. You know, back then, you know, what blacks and whites didn't really join up to each other. That's a good episode. I mean, this, like I said, this one is okay. It's the best episode so far, but I feel like the Bruce W. Smith and whoever wrote this could dug deeper into like this whole thing with especially gay black men and straight black men and how we look and how we're looked at each other. Because he did say, hey, us brothers gotta stick together. And like I always say, gay or straight, we're both black. We're still, you know, in that system. We still gotta make amends. But yes, there is like, I don't wanna say a love-hate relationship. It's more or less a tolerate-hate relationship. Like, don't get me wrong, I have no problems with the LGBT community myself. But I do see that a lot of other black men, they don't really mess with the LGBT like that. Some people, especially when they see gay men and they like them, they go, especially in the black community, when they go, ugh, I ain't messing with that, you know, and they ignorantly say, ugh, I don't mess with that gay shit. No, that shit gay, bro. I don't like that. I've always said I don't like it when straight black men do this. It's just like, let them do them, let them live their life. That has nothing to do with them. What they eat don't make you shit. I think, like I said, I think this is a good episode, but I feel like they could have touched on something a little bit more that, in my opinion, because it's almost there. Like, I think a lot of people will accept this. I think a lot of people will praise this episode, but I also feel like a lot of, like, if you're like me, it could have dug in deeper. It could have, like, tackled more, because at the ending, it's just like, white man making gumbo. And you know what? You're not so bad after all. Even though he was never bad to begin with, or, you know, it was never bad to begin with. I understand, like, the whole thing about Oscar flipping out is one thing, and then, like, but I feel like all that could have just been explained. I mean, I like what Billy Porter said. Hey, look at through your child's eyes. See, that scene, like, and you have Latinos, motherfucking gay, LGBT, you got a white girl in there, black people, they're all dancing, doing the hustle and all that other stuff. And I was like, really? So yeah, overall, I just would, like I said, I feel like this is the closest, as far as I'm concerned, this is the closest I ever get to where I think the, I still think people will like this episode, because like I said, it's a funny episode, not a bad episode either. And plus, it's a B story, it's not really an A story, because the A story is Oscar Proud trying to get along. But this is more or less a B story. So, but I think it's a good, as far as what I wanted, this is probably the closest to what I wanted to get. And I think for what I seen, like I said, it's a good episode. I advise anybody to watch. I could be wrong. And, you know, whoever's seen this episode, I want your honest opinions. And I want you to think about what I said too. If you think I'm right or wrong, let me know. I'm open to have this conversation with anybody that's willing to have this conversation. Do you feel like you should, cartoons should have the responsibility of teaching LGBT things to kids? Or do you feel like it's one of the things that the parents you should leave it up to the parents and let them teach? Because I do feel like at the end of the day, the parents gotta, you have to, as parents, you have to explain this stuff to your kids. Let me know what you guys think. Till then, my name's Oskino Fly and I'm out. Peace.
Fancy ass man wear glove and rings, flying around town in a tub of wings. Found out how to make love to fiends. He mixing that fudge with the drug of dreams. She too teenage to have a drug of choice, but she fuck with that Royce like she love Detroit. She roll.
Pharaoh.
Aha!